Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to be flipping through elemental science. I'm going to be using this for my second grader, but this theme here, Earth Science and Astronomy, you can also use for first to third graders or ages 6 to 9. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up the teacher guide first to see how everything works and how everything is laid out. I appreciate how they start with the quick start guide because this really does sum it all up pretty good. It's mostly going to be 3 components. The first one is reading. They'll be reading scientific information from visually appealing encyclopedias. So these are the main spines here. These are the 2 because there's 2 units. There's the earth science and then there's the astronomy unit. Then there's the doing. So these are where you do hands-on experiments or demonstrations. And then the third thing is writing, taking notes. This is where they will have this notebook here, the student workbook, to basically write down what they've learned in both the encyclopedias and also in the hands-on projects. There's usually 2 notebooking pages for those things. There's also the demonstration supplies. So you can order the experiment kit, which is what I got. It's a box that just has everything that you would need for the demonstrations, or you can just go out and ahead and buy them yourself at the store when the time comes. So here is the table of contents. This is the actual units here. So the first one is the Earth's features unit. So you can kind of get a glimpse of what they'll be going over, things like earthquakes, volcanoes, erosions, caves, rock cycle, fossils, geography, maps. Then there's the living Earth unit. So still speaking of the Earth, like ecosystems, polar biome, forest biome, atmosphere and weather, climate and seasons, caring for the Earth. Then you get into the solar system. Oh, this one. Solar system. And for that, they go into the solar system and then they have 1 lesson per planet here. They even go into the moon and different things in space like meteors and dwarf planets, black holes, and comets. And then the stars and space unit talks about the stars, the constellations, how to use a telescope, trips to space, and the scientist. And that's the last one. So that's kind of a quick overview of what they'll be getting into this year. They bring out the different things that you can utilize in this teacher's guide. It looks overwhelming. I know when I first got this curriculum a few years back, I was like, whoa, there's just so much stuff in here to look at and it's going to be too much, but it's not. You get the hang of it. You know, just to quickly run down, there's going to be a weekly topic. There's going to be 2 scheduling options. If you want to break it up, you could do it in a couple days or do little in a course of 5 days. Then there's the reading assignments that they give you, which is mostly going to be these encyclopedias, but they also will include other books that you can maybe get from the library or that you can buy. There's memory work. This is usually optional, but they'll have like a little poem or something that will help them to memorize the main concepts. Related scientific demonstrations, coordinated unit projects. This is different than what the book last year had, so I'll get into that in a little bit, but this is interesting because this is different. And then there's the optional STEAM ideas as well, so just extra activities. And then there's the notebooking assignments right here. They will lay out how they will take the notes. If you get the lap booking template, which we don't usually get that. That's more arts and craftsy. If you would like to do that rather than just plain write notes in this workbook, you can get the lap book and usually they'll color and they'll cut and paste things here. So that's another nice way for them to, take their notes. And then there's some coloring pages, which there's an extra book that you can get if you want to get the coloring pages, which we did not get. My son does not like to color. Maybe if while you're reading to them or something, they can color or something like that. That can be beneficial. And then there's relevant vocabulary. So it says that they can look up and copy the definition. Here, there's a page. It's like a glossary page that they can fill out, just again to get them to really retain those words that they learn. And then there's also some review sheets. It's kind of like a little quiz. We did not use that last year because there was just a lot of writing that we were already doing, but it is nice. So we'll get into all of that. This is a layout of what the student workbook will have. The first page will be the note-taking part. They'll have this page here to write a couple sentences or a few sentences. Then there's the demonstration sheets where after they do the hands-on demonstration or the project, they can write down their notes of what they did and what they learned from it. There's also the glossary page that I just brought out. This is what that would look like. It's in alphabetical order, and then they could copy that vocabulary definition there. There's the memory work posters in the student workbook where they will have those little poems to help them memorize the concepts, and then these are what the review sheets would look like. There's kind of multiple choice or true and false, and then maybe one write out question there. This is what the lap booking templates would look like. So this is like a folder, and then this is where they would cut and paste into the folder. Again, we did not get those, but that's what that would look like if you had it. And then this is what the coloring pages would look like if you got that, which we did not. But you can see how it's like a full page. They have a page where if you're the type of person that you want to get everything ahead of time, like just all at once at the beginning of the year, or maybe just per unit. Either way, they have the supplies that you would need by week for the demonstrations. So they have that for all the units. And then you get into the first unit, Earth's features. So this would be an overview of the Earth's features unit. So this consists of the first 9 weeks. These are the books you would need. These are all the weeks, things you would consider. And then these are the poems they would be memorizing. This is all the supplies you would need, the vocabulary list. So they just kind of have this overview. And then there's the 2 schedules that you can look at and decide what you want to use. So then this is what the first lesson will look like. They first bring out the encyclopedia. So obviously you'd be using the Earth Encyclopedia here. And there's a couple of pages you'd be looking at. So the first one is our planet. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and look at the student workbook and just kind of show side by side what they would be looking at versus what the teacher's guide brings out. This is what the first lesson looks like. So this is the taking notes of what they read, and this is taking notes of the demonstration. So from here, you notice that there's 2 parts here. So now let's look at the encyclopedia and what that looks like here. Pages 6 to 7. So after looking at the pictures and just reading the facts, they're usually really good facts. I really like these books here. They're really interesting. So I would read that to him and I would ask him, was there anything that stood out to you that you enjoyed? And if not, I would just go ahead and choose a sentence that he would copy, and I would just help him with his spelling and everything, and he would write a sentence here. Then we would go to the next page, pages 8 to 9, which is just the next page over. And same thing, I would just read all these facts to him. We'd look at the pictures, discuss it a little bit. I'd ask him if there's anything he wants to write about. Otherwise, I would go ahead and pick something, maybe a fact, or maybe like one of the main points here in this paragraph. This is usually the paragraph that gives the main focus on what the page is about, and then they give a lot of interesting facts in the rest of the pages. And then he would write it down here. Usually it's just 1 sentence per section here that I would have him write. So that would be our first science day. The second science day is usually the project. And so going back here, we usually don't do memory work. I don't have him memorize the poem. These are the extra books if you want to read. Okay, and then this is the demonstration. So they tell you what you would need. You would need the modeling clay and these colors and a ruler. So usually they would write down the tools they used. They would write down modeling clay, and then they would write down ruler there. This is the scripted paragraph that you would read aloud to them. So you would kind of go over what they had learned about the Earth and their crust and the layers there. And then this is the instructions of how to actually go through the demonstration. And so from here, they can maybe write a really simple sentence just explaining what their method was, what did they do. And then they give you some explanations to tell your child and a couple of questions you can ask them. And so the outcome, what it looked like, what I like to do is I'll take a picture with my phone and then I'll print it out and then I'll just kind of paste it here. Or if your child is kind of artistic and they like to draw, they can draw it out what they saw or what they did. And then they would write a simple sentence of what the outcome was. And then the final thing is their insight. What did they learn? What did they gather from all of this? That would be pretty much it for that lesson that week. But if they're really interested in this lesson, there's more things that they can do. So this is taking the demonstration further, and you can go on this website here and they'll make an edible earth core with Rice Krispie treats and icing, and then you can follow the directions on this. This is the unit project I was talking about. So I'm gonna use this as an example just because it's different. So this one is Model Planet Earth. This one, it says the project will be completed over 3 weeks. This is where you will take a balloon and then you would pretty much do paper mache, but you're gonna do layers, and that's why it takes a few weeks to do, because then you have to let it dry, and then the next week you add to it. And so that will be in the students page here. Model of planet Earth. Okay, so this is the model of planet Earth, what it would pretty much look like at the end, and then what they learned. They could write 1 or 2 sentences there. This is another unit project that they'll be doing for, because this is the first few weeks, and then the next few weeks they can do the rock collection. And that would take time as well, as they collect rocks, maybe once every week they can add to that one. But as you see, they still provide space in the student workbook for them to take notes on these unit projects. Okay, so this is another optional project that they can do. This is the continents. You have the students label and color the continents, and you can find this template in the appendix of this book here. So that's where this page is here. And that's where they can fill it out. They can write out the continents and they can color it. There's also a continent song to help them memorize all the continents. So that's really nice. Then this is just kind of laying out the writing assignments, which I already showed from this book here. And then this is the templates, the lap booking, which we do not do, but that's available if you buy the lap booking templates there. And then the coloring pages. And this is the vocabulary for this lesson. So if you go to page 95, student workbook page 95, because it's in alphabetical order, it'll be on this page here. So the vocabulary word was continent, and they can copy the definition that's there onto here. And so by the end of the year, they'll have all their vocabulary from all the lessons in alphabetical order here in this glossary section. And then there's also the review sheet. So this you can find also in the student workbook, and that's on page 113. So this is where the review sheets are, and then this is the first lesson. So they'd be matching here, a couple of true and false, and then one, what is the most interesting thing you learned this week? They can write that down there. And they're all basically that way, a few questions. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the first week. Again, it seems like a lot, but we don't do all of what they have here. What's nice about this curriculum is they do have a lot of options. Say you don't want to do the demonstration, the hands-on, and you just want to do the review sheet and just call it a day, you know? Or say you don't want them to do the note-taking with the book. Maybe you just go over the book for a little bit, but then you just do the vocabulary word. It's like continent. Like, let's just keep it more simple. And you definitely don't have to do it all, and we definitely don't do it all. And then again, like if you want to do, instead of this demonstration, you just want to do this one because you feel like my child would definitely prefer eating a Rice Krispie treat and connecting that with learning about the earth, then you can just do that instead. And if they're more arts and craftsy, there's the lap booking. So they really provide so much. You can definitely tailor it to your child's needs and to their interests. So that's what I love about it. So that was just one example. That was just lesson 1, and that was for the earth, but there's also things for space. I mentioned this before, but I am curious about the demonstrations and how they're going to demonstrate things that we can't necessarily see with our eyes, or, you know, we can't go to these places. We can't go to outer space, and a lot of times we can't explore the whole earth, you know? We can't go see the layers of the earth and, you know, just a lot of things. So it'll be interesting to see like what demonstrations they'll have to just bring out these points so that they can really visualize it and they can really understand earth and space. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they bring these concepts out. And I definitely will do another review, maybe mid-year, just like a mid-year review of how this goes. I already love this curriculum. I know I'm gonna love it, but just because of this theme, that it's different, and just to see how it's brought out, I do want to do a review mid-year, so be on the lookout for that. Please let me know what you use too, if you use another science curriculum that's maybe similar, because I'm very open. Like, I never just want to stick to something forever if there is something better out there. If there is anything out there that you think we would love, or we could consider, please let me know. But yeah, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys watching my videos, and I'm just hoping that they are helpful to you. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this flip through. I will see you in my next video. Bye.